cannot bring Covington back. No excuses.
Fine with it. I'm fine with it because I don't know what he brings. I don't know what he brings to the defense. Mayo, I've said it. I said it when we were talking about what we wanted to see. I want to see what edge you give this team.
Yeah.
I want to see, and the resilience was one of those things. Now that's slipping away. The Colts game, it started slipping away, and more than it had before, where the other embarrassing losses, they always tended to bounce back from with a win. Then you lose, and it's like, all right, you have until the bye. Maybe they're just tired and gassed mentally. It's been a long season. You're losing. But now it's another embarrassing loss. Now, dude, I know it's your first season, but Dan Campbell also had his team more competitive towards the stretch. That's what you need to show. You can always point to the other examples of the head coaches that failed, but now we're getting to the stretch where there's no excuse making. There's not a whole lot I can pull out to be like, hey, we're not there yet. I gave him his time. Now, my dude, you are losing time, and you are doing everything that I have said myself that you cannot do. And I, as a professional, have to hold myself to a standard. And I can adjust to the new information. People may not like it, but I'm only ever trying to be fair. And this is where the rubber meets the road. And I'm like, everything that I asked you to do, you have not done. And I have no way of being able to, come up with a reason for explaining why, playing devil's advocate, just to kind of rationalize it, especially when you have these dumb comments every week in press conferences that make your job so much harder. Can you imagine if we never had to question why Jerod Mayo is saying something in a press conference, whether we've agreed with it or not? Anytime he has become the storyline that's on the radio or that we see on Twitter and it's on everybody's websites, imagine if we didn't have to talk about that and it was just the game. It would still not be great, but it would be a whole other section of controversy that he keeps stirring up that ends up making national headlines that he wouldn't have to do. And he's been doing it since day one with the whole thing with the orange juice when he makes the comment, spills on himself. If that's the only thing that ever happens, yeah, people are exaggerating and they're just, kind of looking for it. But it's now, dude, it's a theme. It's everything that we tried to pay early on. It's now it's a running theme in the biggest moments. I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say.
I'm with you. I think this is sort of where we not close out the show because we'll go on a little more about this topic, but diving into the fact is Mayo really in trouble. And I like how you mentioned the orange juice thing. And I remember our colleague Andrew Callahan wrote the orange juice column that day in the Herald. And we were like, maybe a little premature, like you said, because of that. But now it's turning into that. It's never changed. It's never taken the 180 that we wanted it to. And I also like that you mentioned the adapting to new information and seeing that, okay, but we need to see more now and let's see more. And it's coming to a point where it's just not. And it's, man, Tayler, it's frustrating to just kind of watch it. And I know that you had tweeted it a couple weeks ago and going into this sort of stretch where it's like, this is where you need to see what he brings. And our thought, I think, was more so like, okay, he brings players coach-ish, but understands the game. And so he can help them appropriately prepare and get somewhat of an edge because he knows how to get them prepared. It's like, that's not even happening.
He's a linebacker. He was a co-defensive coordinator, not the guy, but you could see, at least in his resume, where he should be able to see the game through, obviously not to the same degree, but be able to see it somewhat through Belichick's eyes, because you were a linebacker for him. You changed the plays, you ran the defense, then you ran it as a coach. It should have been, obviously, you're not Belichick, but you should be able to, at least the situational football and the things that he emphasized, those should be the areas of strength. But it's like, well, those aren't, and you don't bring anything else. So why are you here? What are you doing here? What do you do here?
I love it. Not that I love it. I don't mean it like that, but that's the question now. What do you bring? And right now, it doesn't seem like he brings anything. What's the upside? The only upside I can think of right now to keep him is continuity and not blowing it up again and not putting the team through a whole another kind of rebuild here where it's like, oh, well, we tried it and didn't work, so let's try it again. And you tried it and it worked, let's try it again. Those are what bad teams do. But right now, you're a bad football team. So
you are what your record says you are. He pulled out the tuna line because sometimes he follows the script and sometimes he doesn't.
I know. It's not good, and I do wonder if these are the type of losses that make the Crafts instead of measuring 9 times and cutting once, they do that, but they do it in rapid succession and rapid fire here.
And we need to be honest. It's not like, I think they wanted to be patient because they are businessmen. I think they understand because they've seen what patience can do. Sometimes you just need to let a guy struggle.
Yeah.
But this is like one of the worst case scenarios where it does look really bad. And all the promises that were made aren't being followed through. And they're not on a long time span. Like, it's one thing if he shows growth and you're thinking maybe you turn this around in 3 to 4 years. But now you're looking at 3 to 4 years and saying, are we just stabilized by then? Like, because it doesn't feel like there's been a whole lot of stepping forward. The offense there was, and but then that's Alex Van Pelt. That's not really Jerod Mayo's domain. I'm sure he gives his input, but he's freaking, it sounds like he's throwing his guy under the bus. And he's been one of the few bright spots for the team. So now we have this disconnect where it's, I think, yeah, they may have to make a move if this continues. Buffalo just blew out the Lions. What just happened?
I'm reading Twitter. It's so good. Andrew Callahan tweeted. Andrew tweeted, "I've been writing about Mayo's various press conference gaffes since the offseason. I still can't believe he said this," talking about that. And Burned from Pat's Pulpit responds and goes, "Well, if you take out that one quote, though."
Burn is always
You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. Oh boy. Oh yeah. It's a nightmare. I don't know what he brings, Taylor. I'm on that side. I understand being a former coach. I understand being able to bring that side of things, aspect to it, and maybe get players to play for you, but they're not playing for you. They're not playing good football right now. Like
if I'm a free agent, why do I want to come to the Patriots to play for Jerod Mayo?
Right.
Don't.
Let's take another super chat, Nelson. We appreciate you. $5 here. Do you guys feel Van Pelt has lost the wide receiver room because of the play calling?
No, this is the face is not because of the question. It's because the receiver room has absolutely no place to, be criticizing Alex Van Pelt openly. If you feel like could he have been more aggressive? Maybe. I'll go through the tape and I'll try to see what their man beaters were and what they did. I'm not saying the guy's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think what he's kind of riding right now is the fact that he developed Drake May very well and has put an offense around him that is functional. It's not super creative, but that's also not what you thought you were getting. And the offensive line has just made it even harder, I think, to really call the kind of game that he probably wants to play. But the wide receivers, dude, Kayshon Boutte has not proven that he deserves to be a starter next season or someone they're not looking to replace. Demario Douglas, as much as I like him, it just hasn't been consistent enough. And I'm sure the offensive line has something to do with it, but I don't see him as not being replaceable. The only guy on this roster right now that I would like to see continue to start is Kendrick Bourne, because I feel like he is starting to actually make plays on a weekly basis. He's winning in different ways, and I'd like to see how their relationship continues to flourish. But Jalen Polk has not shown you anything. Obviously, nothing from Javon Baker, nothing from Kayshon Boutte. I'm sorry. Yeah, these guys, maybe they can grow and get better or whatever, but you're all replaceable.
They have no place to lose. They have no place to be like, oh, what is this guy doing? No, you need to get open. You need to sit down in zones. You need to catch the football when you have to catch the football, and then we'll scheme things up for you. It's one thing if they're doing what he tells them and it's not working, but clearly they're not, because there's too much miscommunication, not finger pointing, because they haven't really finger pointed, but they kind of have. And it's like,
stop talking. Stop making headlines. Stop saying things that incite people to write about you. It's not that hard.